Okay. Hi guys, thank you for coming back. For those of you who are back, and welcome to everyone who's new. I'm super excited to share this with you guys. It's something that's very close to my heart, is being part of the culture, and I hope that you have a lot of fun learning about these characters and kind of seeing how they have been represented before and learning new things. If you have any questions, please, by all means, drop them in the chat. I will be answering as many as I can. If I don't have the information available to me right now, I will make sure to get it for you later because I don't want to give you any wrong answers. My husband helped me put a lot of this together because he's a very big comic enthusiast. So if you have any questions for him, he's currently trying to get in, so he can help me out as well. So I think we can go ahead and just jump right into it. Let me just make sure that stuff is up. All right, hold on 1 second. I'm having a little bit of a weird issue. Just give me 1 second, guys. I'm just gonna stop my video for 1 second. All right, sorry about that, guys. Everything's fixed now. Okay, so if you got a chance to look at the beginning here that I have on the cover, these are some of the characters that we will go through. And I thought that this guy was pretty cool because he's actually one of the first people that we're going to talk about. His name is White Tiger, and he is from Earth's main universe. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. It just jumped all the way to 10. Like, cool. All right. Before we get into him, though, I just wanted to explain Latina versus Latinx. For those of you who might have noticed that I used Latina in my title over Latinx, they basically mean the same thing. It's the same self-identifier, just in a different way. So Latina is the most language inclusive and Latinx is the most gender inclusive, although Latina is also gender inclusive. It's just more speakable in Spanish and more recognizable when speaking to other Spanish speakers outside of the US. And Latinx, again, is gender inclusive and more recognizable inside of the United States. Self-identifiers are not one size fits all. So it's okay to ask what someone prefers, and it's okay to try to work through your self-identifiers and see what feels best. I prefer Latina because it's easier for me to say. And, you know, sometimes I tried to use Latinx and I just got all tripped up over it. So I have to like think about it more, but that's why I preferred to use Latina versus Latinx. And you will see that throughout my presentation. So White Tiger, his name is Hector Ayala. He's published by Marvel and he is from Earth 616. For those of you who are not super familiar with Marvel and comics, they tend to have like a lot of different universes, which means that there are different Earths. And there's also another universe within Marvel where there used to be. It was called the Ultimate Marvel Universe, and that is what the MCU is based on. So it might get a little bit confusing while I try to explain some of this to you guys. But again, if you have questions, I'm going to do my best and just put them in the chat and I will answer them as best I can. He was created by Bill Mantlo and George Perez. Bill was the writer and George was the artist. As we go through different characters, you'll see that there are usually 2 to 3 names associated with a character because there is usually a writer and an artist. Most of the time, it's not just the same person. He is a Puerto Rican character. He's 100% Puerto Rican, which I thought was awesome because that's something that I never knew before. He's the first Latin American character in the history of comics, and the first appearance was in December of 1975. He's Marvel's first Latina superhero, but he was actually released as a villain at first. He's kind of somewhat considered an anti-hero, kind of like Deadpool, for those of you who are familiar with him. A lot of the times for characters of color, they are actually released as villains first. For those of you who don't know, a good example is Black Panther. He was actually released as a villain before coming into his rights as a hero. So the Black Panther that we see in the MCU, that's nowhere near how he was written in the comics. Hector receives his powers from the amulet that's worn around his neck. A lot of the times when it's drawn, you can't really see it here or here, but a lot of the times when it's drawn, it kind of has the spikes that Black Panther has on his suit. So it's really reminiscent of that. And the amulet is from Kunlun. For those of you who are familiar with the Marvel shows on Netflix, Iron Fist mentions this place a lot. The start of his career was very, very turbulent. He was actually blamed for a murder of a young boy named Manuel Lopez. And Hobie Brown, which was the first Prowler that was introduced, actually attacked Hector to avenge Manny's death. Manny was Hobie's little brother from the Big Brother program. So that's how they were introduced to each other. And it's actually a classic example of pitting characters of color against each other, although back then, and especially like in the 90s and whatnot, you know, Black Americans, Latin Americans actually worked together a lot. So that was kind of like a little bit annoying in my opinion to see it. That happens a lot in these things. So you'll see that kind of as a pattern, which is unfortunate. Later in Hector's career, it was determined that the leader of the crime syndicate that he was trying to dismantle was actually headed or like by his brother Filippo. Filippo, like there's kind of a controversy of whether he headed it or he just headed a part of it. Filippo actually later meets his own demise by his own hand because he chooses to kill himself with a bomb that was meant for Hector himself. So again, like his life as a hero and his life in general was kind of like a big telenovela, which was pretty interesting to see because I was kind of, I don't know, kind of shocked, I guess, like seeing how dramatic they decided to write his life. I know that happens with a lot of other comic characters as well, but I felt like, you know, it didn't really have to be that awful. But as we go through this, you'll see that some characters actually had it worse off than Hector. Another interesting fact that I found was that they gave Hector an intelligence level of 2. For Marvel characters, there's an intelligence scale of like 1 to 7, and 1 being noted as like mentally challenged. So, and 2 was like normal. It's supposed to be of normal intelligence. And so I thought that was kind of interesting to see as well, that they gave the first Latina superhero an intelligence level of 2 when he seemed to be a little bit more adept than that. The next character that we're going to go through again is actually another white tiger, and this is Hector's niece. The mantle was passed down to her. Eventually, she's actually the 5th white tiger. She was created by Christos Gage and Tom Rainey. She's also Puerto Rican. Her first appearance was in December of 2011, and she was actually written as an activist for the Latina community, which I thought was really cool. So when she's not in her suit fighting crime, she is fighting for, equal rights and making sure that the Latina community is taken care of. She also receives the powers from the amulet, and she was able to convince the white tiger god that actually gives them the powers in the amulet to fully submit to her and to give her control over all of the powers provided. She is the first white tiger that's ever been able to do that. It was kind of like a battle in her mind. And eventually the white tiger, though, does abandon and leaves her for someone else who he felt was like more powerful, more malleable to his will. But she still fought without any of her powers, which I thought was pretty cool. And that's usually not something that's written for female characters. Her story was also written with a lot of family tension. She was actually a part of a storyline where she herself was put against her niece. Her niece felt as though she was the one that was supposed to be the white tiger. She thought that her aunt stole the amulet from her, when in actuality, she actually herself gave the amulet to her aunt. I'm not sure exactly how they explained that in the issues. That wasn't really very clear. To me, it seems like it might have been a tiny bit of a little lazy writing or forgetfulness when it came to that arc, but it was a very important arc because that was the time where Ava was able to take over the powers from the white tiger. They also put her, though, as an intelligence level of a 2, which was something that I felt, again, like that didn't really seem like it correlated to how she moved and the things that they had her do in the comics. But I mean, we can't go back and change that. So hopefully as things progress, things will be a little bit better, but we shall see. So the next person that I want to talk to you guys about is super popular now, which is Miles Morales. With his movie Into the Spider-Verse, he kind of blew up. I mean, he was super popular before within the comic world, but once his movie came out, it was like the more general population, like, oh wow, that's something that I've never seen before. He's biracial, he's Black and Puerto Rican. However, a lot of the times Puerto Rican heritage is often overlooked. They tend to market him as the Black Spider-Man instead of just marketing him as Spider-Man, because that's what he is. He's Spider-Man. I know that he's Black, but I don't feel the need for them to say the Black Spider-Man, because that's kind of like saying, like, if Batman was Black, he would be the Black Batman instead of just saying he's Batman. I feel like that takes away almost like the fact that he's a hero for some reason. Like it feels like they just want to give him to like one side of the culture versus giving him to like the whole world, like how they give Peter Parker the whole world. They're like, oh, he's just Spider-Man, he saves everyone. But Miles is like, he's the Black Spider-Man, so he goes to the hood, he saves the hood. He was created by Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pichelli. His first appearance was in August of 2011, and he actually started in the Ultimate Universe, which was dissolved completely. Again, the Ultimate Universe was the universe that I mentioned that the MCU is based off of. And he was one of only 2 characters that were pulled from the Ultimate Universe into the main Marvel Universe. They saved those 2 characters because they wanted to save Miles, because he was the most successful thing that they had made in the Ultimate Universe, and they didn't want to lose him. And the only way they could make that make sense was if they saved the other character as well. That's the only way that they could like take his story and put it in. And this is kind of what spurred later into the Spider-Verse, which is what we know now. And it kind of like explained the multiverse in a way. Let's see, what else? He also was slightly forced into the hero life because of Peter Parker's untimely death. When Miles got his powers, Peter was still a very, very prominent person in the Ultimate Universe. He was still saving the city. He was still, doing all of his superhero work, but then eventually, not so quick, like in Into the Spider-Verse in the movie, he didn't die super quickly. It was actually maybe a year or two after Miles got his powers was when Peter died, and that's when Miles was forced to learn how to control his powers. Before that, he wasn't really interested. He just wanted to be a kid and live his life and do his thing and leave the hero work, like the real hero work, up to the real Spider-Man. That's how he felt. But then Peter died and he felt like, okay, I'm the one with these powers now, so let me see what I can do. But it came with a lot of trouble. His story is also riddled with a lot of turmoil. Like the uncle he looks up to turns out to be a criminal and dies, as we saw in the movie, if you did see the movie. And another interesting fact that wasn't shown in the movie was that his dad also started out in a life of crime. He wasn't always a cop. He didn't really do it by choice, though. He had just went out with his brother one night, and his brother had to take care of some stuff that was associated with his criminal world. And they ended up getting into this huge fight with like some mobsters and got arrested. But Nick Fury, for those of you who are familiar with MCU, this guy with eye patch, he was very interested in Miles' dad. He was impressed by his strength and the fact that he could hold his own against these guys in the fight. So Nick Fury pulls him aside and is like, you're going to be my informant, basically, and forced him to do a whole bunch of things that he did not want to do. He had to, basically act like he was this gangster and be on the side of Prowler, and then go back to Nick Fury and tell him all of the horrible things he did and what horrible things these people were planning to do next. Eventually, he was able to get out of it, and he was able to walk away, leave it behind, and become a cop, and that's how we see him in the movie. But that's another reason why the relationship between him and his brother was so turbulent. Another thing that I would like to note is that Miles was actually supposed to be the Spider-Man featured in the MCU. So the story that we first see for Peter Parker in the MCU that was in Homecoming is actually Miles's story. It's not Peter's. So the MCU changes a lot of things a lot of the times, but this isn't the first character that they took a story from someone else and gave it to, the person that we saw on screen. But I would have really liked to see a live action Miles. I think that would have been really dope. That they felt, well, the writers and the producers felt that the world was not ready for a Black and Puerto Rican Spider-Man. So insert eye roll for that, because I feel like the world has been more than enough ready for years now to see someone else that looks like something else. But that didn't happen. At least we got the animated film. It's going to continue, which is nice. Hopefully that will spur into an actual live action for him, but we'll see what happens. He was also, like, now in the comics, he's getting like this more like streetwear kind of look that's like noted here. A lot of the artists that are working on him now kind of give him like a better fashion sense than some of the other heroes. So he's kind of become like the streetwear icon, which is kind of cool to see. Like you see a lot of like art inspired by him, or cosplays inspired by his streetwear looks and stuff, which I think is really, really cool. It actually like breathes a new life into him and like the culture. Like another thing that's super, super recognizable for him is the fact that he wears his J's a lot with his costume. And, you know, I feel like a lot of people who see that are like, oh, that's dope. Like I can be him. Like I don't want to be Peter Parker Spider-Man, even though, you know, he's cool. He's been around forever. But like this Spider-Man, like he has something different. And, you know, more often than not, a character is created by someone outside of the culture, which almost always leads to stereotypical storylines and art, which has been seen in these first three characters. But again, sometimes the artists change and it gives them new life, just like how Miles is kind of seeing that now. And another thing that I really love about Miles is the fact that he's somewhat like of an ode to the urban NYC hip hop culture that was created by Black and Puerto Rican Americans. And I love to see that in the comics. You know, they have him speaking Spanish, they have him going to bodegas and like, you know, really showing like that side of him. But they also like include the hip hop music, they include the streetwear, they do their best now to like really make sure he's melded. But another thing that I don't necessarily like about Miles is, again, they gave him an intelligence level of 2, although he is noted to be in one of the like highest ranking schools in NYC, and he's really smart. He's really smart, but they still gave him a 2, which is very confusing. But moving on, for the sake of time, we have Miguel O'Hara, which is Spider-Man 2099. I really like him because he looks so different from any of the other Spider people that I have had, you know, the chance to like get to know. He's biracial as well. He's Irish and Mexican. He's created by Peter David and Rick Leonardi. His first appearance was in August of 1992 as a preview, but his first full issue was released in November of 1992. It's really cracking my head that there are so many Spider-Mans. Yes, I know. There's like a bunch of Spider people. Like I could have done a presentation on just Spider-Man, to be honest. Like, but I'm not going to do that to you guys because then it'll get really confusing. They decided to make him Spider-Man 2099 because he's a futuristic reimagining of the original Spider-Man. And it's not set in New York, it's set in Nueva York. So that's how they make the difference. So it's literally called, by everybody in the city, it's literally called Nueva York. He is the first Marvel Latina character with their own series. And he is the first person of Latina heritage to take up the mantle of Spider-Man. He became Spider-Man not by a spider bite, though. This is what makes him different and a tiny bit more interesting. So he actually got his powers by a genetic procedure rather than the spider bite. So to just dive into that a little bit, he is actually a genius in the field of genetics. But before we get into that little drama, let me give you the family drama that they gave him so everything else can make sense. So his mother, whose name is Conchata, I don't know why they named her Conchata, but we'll digress, had an affair, surprise, surprise, with her husband's boss. So again, telenovela everywhere in that sentence, just pure telenovela. He grew up thinking his stepfather was his real father, though. He was not aware that his mom had an affair until much later in his life. He also, by the way, did not start as a villain. So I think that's very important to note. But anyways, he ended up working for his biological father's company. His dad was the vice president of research at the company. So he was kind of like his boss's boss, Miguel's boss's boss. Miguel was pressured by his dad, his bio dad, to test a process to imprint genetic codes into human physiology. He did it on a test subject, and the subject turned into a horrific monster and died horribly. So after that happened, he was very upset and he wanted to quit. You know, he went to the biodad's office and was like, this is my resignation. I'm not doing this anymore. I refuse. The biodad was like, oh, you know, I understand. It's cool. Have a drink with me and then you can go. The drink was laced with a highly addictive hallucinogenic that only that company made. You take one sip of that and you're addicted for life. So the biodad's plan was to make Miguel addicted so that he would have to stay in his job and do whatever they asked him to, basically. But Miguel, being smart, he was like, okay, this is in my body now. I'm going to do the genetic procedure on myself. If it gets rid of this hallucinogenic, great. If I die, okay. You know, either way, I don't got to work for this company no more. Like, that's how much he did not want to work there anymore. So he goes ahead and he does the procedure on himself, and his DNA ended up being spliced with the genes of a spider. So it wiped all of the hallucinogenic out of him, and he ended up not being addicted anymore, but he ended up with these weird powers of a spider. He even has like red irises now. They changed the eye color of him. He has talons. So the talons that you see right here, they are not a part of his suit. Those are part of him. That's his body. They retract when he touches himself, but you know, it's very easy for him to just whip them out. He was very, I mean, like that in itself is like super dramatic. The day that he changed, he ended up like having to confront his manager at the time because his manager tried to stop him from doing this procedure, right? But then they got like into this whole fight and stuff, and it was after everything had happened and like there's this big explosion and whatnot, and he went to save his manager from falling off something, but the talons came out and he actually ended up ripping the guy's arm off, and then the guy just plummeted to his death. So that was his first day with his spider powers. Feels like, you know, it's pretty traumatic. Another cool thing about him though is that he bought his costume prior to gaining his powers. So the costume that he has on was meant to be worn to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, which I was like, you know, it's kind of cool. So he kind of like wears his heritage with him every time he goes out to fight. But again, this is another person that his world is totally filled with drama. I mean, he even has a half brother that actually became Venom after a near-death experience. And then his half brother, after merging with the symbiote and becoming Venom, killed Miguel's fiance. So yeah, it's a lot. It's very a lot. So, you know, even though it like keeps you enthralled, it keeps you there, sometimes you're like, can he just have a happy day? You know, like, Jesus, does he need to have all this trauma? Like, it's so much. And I feel like more often than not, I see like more of the, you know, white characters having like, you know, they have trauma, but sometimes they have like happy days where, you know, everything doesn't go wrong. They get married, they have kids, you know, everybody that these people love have died for the most part. So it's kind of insane. A fun fact about him, for anybody who is familiar with Batman Beyond, he actually inspired the creation of Batman Beyond. So I thought that was really, really fun to know, especially because, you know, he's the futuristic, you know, reimagining of his namesake, and that's what Batman Beyond is. So it makes sense when you think about it. A great thing about him as well is they actually gave him an intelligence level of a 4. So they said he was a genius and they made him a genius, thankfully. So finally something lines up. He's also going to be the main focus of the next Spider-Verse movie, which I am so excited about. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see how they draw him and whatnot. We've only gotten to see him in his suit, which I'm going to give you a little preview of right now. You better have fun. I know that's right. I know that's right. All right. So for any of you that watched Into the Spider-Verse but didn't wait for the end, because we got to wait for the end for all the movies now, guys. There was 2 extra credit scenes. We got to wait. So I'm going to give you that now. If you can't hear it, just let me know.
You're a bit late. Can't really hear it.
Can't hear it? Okay. Well, let's see what I can do.
You're a bit late.
Can't all be everywhere at once.
Little text might have been nice.
I was gone for less than 2 hours.
Okay. I know what it looks like. But here's the good news.
Oh, here we go.
Multiverse didn't collapse.
Oh, cool.
Touch yourself. It worked out.
Great story. Hey, did you finish the goober?
It's not a goober, it's a gizmo.
You don't have to call me out. It's just really frustrating.
Don't get too excited, Miguel. It's just a prototype.
Not excited.
But you could be the first person to make an autonomous multiverse jump. Or the last.
Okay, so we're just gonna roll the dice on
So
this?
what do you say, pal? Where do you want to go first?
Let's start at the beginning. One last time. Earth 67.
What the?
I'm Spider-Man. I need you to come with
Who
me.
the heck are you?
I just told you that. Listen, I'm from the future.
Dare you point at me? You were pointing first, rude to point.
You're being very rude. You're not even believing what I do.
Spider-Man, obviously.
You're pointing at me right now.
You're pointing. I'm just pointing at you.
Look at your finger right
Different
now.
than normal pointing.
You're
You
pointing.
haven't.
You're accusing me of pointing while you're.
Look.
So that was the end scene. I don't know if you got to hear it. If you didn't, it's okay. I'll put the link for it in the email once this gets sent out so you guys can watch it and have better sound. But I thought it was cute, especially because it used the scene of the meme that everybody uses when the Spider-Mans come together and they're all pointing at each other like, you. But I'm actually really, really excited about it. So hopefully, we get to see more of Miguel and like you get to know a little bit more of his story. Maybe they'll make it a little happier. Who knows? So the next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna jump into DC with the Green Lantern. This guy, like, he's so cool, guys. Like, you have no idea. He is so cool. His name is Kyle Rayner. He's published by DC, like I said. He's created by Ron Mars and Daryl Banks. His first appearance was in January of 1994. He is also biracial, also Irish and Mexican. I don't know where that mix came from and why it kept appearing, but interesting. Nonetheless, he was inspired by Spider-Man 2099, so it could be that they just wanted to do a nod to that for him. He was the only Green Lantern in all of existence for a time. Like when he first became Green Lantern, he was the only one. So for those of you who are not familiar with Green Lantern, they are a corps, and they each protect their own planet or universe. Usually, well, not usually, sometimes there's 2 to a universe, sometimes more, sometimes it's just the one, but regardless of that, they are not the only Green Lantern in existence. He, however, was. So that was a lot, that was a lot for him. He changed the Green Lantern costume to what you see in the bottom right, so he wouldn't be mistaken for Hal Jordan. And their reasoning for that was because Hal Jordan, who was the previous Green Lantern, was grief-stricken by the death of either his wife or fiance. I don't remember what she was considered at the time. He went and killed the entire Green Lantern Corps. Yeah, so he was the reason why Kyle Rayner was by himself. The reason why Kyle was picked to be the Green Lantern, was chosen to get the ring, has been very up in the air. There's not really an actual reason, except for the fact that he might have just been in the right place at the right time. Let's see, what else? He became Ion, which is a sentient being created out of willpower. And for those of you who don't know, willpower is what actually fuels the Green Lantern's ring and their powers. They have like this little charging station thing for their ring, but it's powered by their willpower. So this person who has the ring has to be pretty strong mentally. Before he became the Green Lantern, he was actually a struggling but gifted freelance graphic artist, which I thought was pretty cool because you don't see a lot of artists in the comic community usually. And his constructs, which are the things that he builds with the ring, are actually all based on like nerd culture and things that he likes, like manga and anime. So a lot of his constructs are actually very, very solid and actually, you know, super useful and things that people that battle him would never expect to see. Anyways, going back to the Ion thing, he absorbs all of the power from the Green Lantern Corps. And when he does that, he like achieves godhood. The fusion was spurred by events following his girlfriend's death, which was also super tragic, by the way. His life was not fun. He came home and found his girlfriend murdered and stuffed in the fridge. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why they had to do that, but that was a thing. He, with the power after that, you know, one would think like he would kind of go crazy, like how Jordan did. But he didn't. He was able to actually, you know, control himself, control his willpower, control his emotions. And with the new power that he got by becoming Ion, he actually recreates the Guardians of the Universe and the Green Lantern Corps. So the Guardians of the Universe, for anybody who has seen the Green Lantern, they're like those people that sit on those really high chairs. They're small with like the big heads. They give the rings to people. So he recreated them and the entire Green Lantern Corps on his own. So after he did that, he wasn't the only Green Lantern anymore. He actually also conquered the entire emotional spectrum to become the White Lantern, which is what's shown here and how he looks like cool, looking like Jon Snow and stuff. The emotional spectrum, for those of you again who don't know, are all of the different colored rings in Green Lantern. So there's Yellow Lantern, Red Lantern, Purple Lantern, and they all represent a different emotion. So like red is rage, yellow is fear. I think it's either pink or purple, that's love, you know, something like that. But he conquers all of them and is actually given a ring for each emotion, which makes him the White Lantern. And the White Lantern represents life. He was the first ever to be given every ring, because he's not the first White Lantern. There are other White Lanterns, but they are just given a white ring. He was the first to get all the rings and become a White Lantern, like a true White Lantern, in my opinion, because he was able to do that. Honestly, he's been just about everything you can possibly be in the Green Lantern universe, but a lot of people don't know about him. And a lot of people don't know about him because Hal Jordan and John Stewart tend to be more highly favored. Although Kyle's storylines are more interesting, he's more impressive, and he's tend to be thought of as the most powerful Green Lantern, or powerful Lantern, period. They prefer Hal Jordan for the most part because he was a pilot. We know people like pilots because people are super into war stuff, apparently, still, for some reason. And then John Stewart is used a lot because he is one of the Black Lanterns that has been published and drawn and like seen in character storylines, like as far as like the TV shows that we grew up with and whatnot, like in Justice League. John Stewart was the Green Lantern that we saw, which I love that representation. I love seeing him. I think it's great, but you know, sometimes it'd be cool to see Kyle every now and again because there are two lanterns every now and again, like shown. So it's kind of just like, why not show my boy, you know, like, especially if they want to like have someone who has a powerful storyline other than like Superman or Batman. I don't know about you guys, but I am sick of them. We have seen them. We have seen a whole bunch of different representations and storylines of both of them, and I'm over it. And it'd be great to just get someone new. His story was also like a little bit more interesting as well because his dad was actually a secret CIA agent that abandoned him at birth. That part wasn't the interesting part. I kind of would have rathered he had his father figure in his life. That would have been nice. But the fact that he was a CIA agent was kind of interesting to me. Their stories got the tea. Girl, all of it. Super dramatic for no reason. But hopefully, I'm really hoping we get to see Kyle soon because the live action Green Lantern movie that we did get with Hal Jordan and the actor whose name I have forgotten was awful. It was so bad. So, you know, maybe once everybody has that bad taste out of their mouth, we'll get a better one and maybe we can see him be the White Lantern. So the next person that I have is also another Green Lantern, which I felt was very interesting. Her story is also awful, you know, by the way, just heads up. But she, her name is Jessica Cruz. She was created by Geoff Johns, Ivan Reis, and Ethan Van Sciver. First appearance was in January of 2013. She's biracial as well, which is a big thing when it comes to Latina characters. She's Mexican and Honduran. Instead of, you know, just picking one, for some reason they have to pick two, I guess, because they feel like they would be more marketable. They'll get more people to read them if they're two races instead of just the one. I think that she would have done fine if they had just wrote her as Mexican or if they had just wrote her as Honduran. Like, you know, it's okay to, you know, just give one culture, but I digress. She got her powers a little bit later, just how usually all the Green Lanterns do. She actually, though, early in her life, maybe like 20s, teens, she went on a hunting trip with her friends and came across mobsters who were burying a body. They didn't want witnesses, so they killed all of her friends, but she was able to get away. After she got away, she developed a debilitating anxiety disorder and locked herself in her room for 4 years. You know, trauma response, everybody responds differently. But she locked herself in her room for 4 years. Like, they couldn't give her therapy. Like, therapy is a thing, you know? They didn't have to do her like that, in my opinion. They also ended up forcing the ring upon her, and the powers kind of like took over her body. So before she got the ring, the Green Lantern ring, she first wielded the ring of Volthoom. She was unwillingly chosen because she was succumbing to her fears. So because of her anxiety, because of her PTSD, because of her past, she was chosen for this evil ring. And it draws this power from its owner, killing them from the inside out. She attacked the Justice League under the influence of this ring. With the help of Batman, she was actually able to overcome the power of the ring, and she was actually able to control it a bit. A little bit later, they were in some kind of a battle, and she seemingly sacrificed herself, and in that moment, she overcame all of her fears. So when she died, it actually killed the entity that was within her, controlling her. And she was released from the power of the ring. And because of that, the Green Lantern Corps actually sought her out and gave her a Green Lantern ring. However, she had a very, very hard time with the Green Lantern ring because it's powerful and powered by willpower, you know. So she continued to struggle with her anxiety and her PTSD. And she had panic attacks in the middle of battles. So she couldn't control any of her emotions, and things were just going really, really bad, to be honest. She had a partner that she was with, and they were able to finally be able to like work together and figure things out. But I think, you know, again, in my opinion, I thought it was really nice to see a Latina character with anxiety and PTSD, because mental health is not, it's something that we talk about more often now, but it's definitely not something that's, you know, shown a lot in things that we look up to, or in fandoms and things of this nature. So it kind of reminded me of like Iron Man and how they show him struggle with his sobriety and alcoholism. I think like putting real things in comics like this really helps the people that are struggling with it. It helps them, you know, like latch onto something and see like things can get better. And it also helps show the younger generation this is normal. Like, you're not crazy and it's okay. It doesn't just happen to people who look like this. It happens to everyone. And you're right, communities of color generally don't talk about mental health, especially in the mass media. So, you know, she's popular, but not super popular. And I wish like she would grow in popularity just so people could see the storyline. You know, I have no idea what DC is going to do later down the line. So we'll see what happens. Let's see what else happened with her. Oh, she was killed by Darkseid, who is like DC's version of Thanos. The ring was actually smashed in that like event, and she was able to like absorb the Omega radiation within the ring, and it fused with her arm, and the ring fragments bring her back to life and grant her more powers. So kind of confusing, but comic world, so everything usually makes sense because it's comic world. But she is one of the Green Lanterns that dies and gets brought back to life. All right, you just skipped all over Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle is the next guy that I want to talk about. His name is Jamie Reyes. He was created by Keith Giffen, John Rogers, and Cully Hamner. His first appearance was in February of 2006. He's Mexican. He grew up in Texas. He is the third Blue Beetle, and Blue Beetles are given their abilities from the scarab that fuses to their spines. You can kind of see what that is in the GIF that I put up there. The scarab retains a certain amount of control. So sometimes it's very hard to have reign of the powers and even just reign of themselves mentally. So a person that can really control and be a Blue Beetle and be just a hero by themselves is someone who is very, very, very mentally strong. Jamie Reyes got the scarab as a teenager, though. So imagine that. You're just living your life one day, hanging out with your friends, and then all of a sudden you have this thing talking to you because this thing is attached to your back. Like, imagine, like, it's insane. So you know, he had a really hard time at first, and he kept on trying to find help. And in trying to find help, he ended up having to go on a mission with Batman, and was thrown outside of dimensions by the scarab. He thought he was just out for like maybe 10 minutes and he was going to go home back to Earth. Everything was going to be fine. He ended up losing a whole year on Earth. So he lost a whole year of his life. And when he returned after his year absence, his father was crippled, his best friend joined a gang, And his other best friend ended up, like, she was living with an abusive father. The abusive father died and she had to live with her aunt now. So, you know, he ended up going back to a lot of emotional turmoil. In order to explain his absence, he ended up having to reveal his identity as Blue Beetle to his family and to his friends. And his sister became deathly afraid of him, and his mother didn't believe he was the real Jamie. She thought that, like, it was some alien that came back to, like, intercept something or whatever, like go into their lives and take over. So he ended up having to recount a whole bunch of memories and whatnot from his departure for them to believe him. Eventually they did. So it ended up being fine, but it took a lot of time. The only thing about him that I can say is that his story isn't super filled with a lot of family disputes or endless, like, telenovela plots. They're actually a very loving family once they really, like, figure out, okay, this is the real Jamie. They just love him the same, which was really nice to see. He ends up being a member of the Teen Titans, and Blue Beetle will actually be DC's first Latina solo superhero movie, and it's going to come out soon, and it's going to be a live action. So that's going to be super fun to see, especially because he has a very quirky personality. He's very funny and a bit awkward. Again, he's a teenager, so I think that'll be interesting to see. The only thing that I can say that I don't really like about his story and what they put into it is that when he does try to get help or get answers about the Scarab and its powers, it ends up being a great struggle. Like, all the adults that say that they want to help, they end up fighting him, arguing with him. And he gets into a lot of physical altercations just when he wants help. And I don't think that that sends a very great message, especially to the people that, the younger people who are in his age group and might be reading his comics. It kind of sends a message that, like, oh, if you ask for help, you're not going to get any, or you're going to be met with a lot of turmoil and disputes just to, get what you need. So I hope that they change that a bit, because, sometimes asking for help is really hard. And it would be nice for someone to just be like, okay, like, I don't know the answers, but I'm going to help you. And that be the end of it, instead of them trying to figure out his intentions and all this other stuff. Moving on, what is happening? This Canva is not my friend today, guys. Oh my God. Okay, America Chavez. She is Miss America, published by Marvel, raised as Puerto Rican. So this is where she gets a little confusing. She is human, but when she comes into, like, Marvel's main universe, they think she's like an alien, but she's not. She's human. She's just from a parallel dimension. Something happened in her dimension where there was, like, a lot of fighting and people were dying and stuff. And to save her and her sister, her moms opened up a portal and tried to throw them through it. She was the only one that made it through, though. And she was actually born with her powers on this other dimension. It's normal for them to have powers. And yes, two moms. She was created by Joe Casey and Nick Dragotta. Her first appearance was in September of 2011. She is the second Miss America. The first was Madeline Joyce, who was a white woman. She is Marvel's first queer Latina character. And again, she had two moms in her original dimension. She became a vigilante hero in Washington Heights, where she lived with her adopted family. They did not support her, though. They wanted to keep her low-key. They didn't want her to show her powers. They didn't want trouble with anybody, especially the cops. But she was like, no, that is not me. That is not my life. That is not who I want to be. She reached a boiling point at one point when she had went and did something to save somebody. She was, like, late for a baby shower. Her family was super pissed off at her, started yelling at her, started an argument. And she was like, you know what? I'm dropping your last name. I don't need it. I'm taking my mom's last name and I'm going to be a hero like how they were heroes. And she essentially just decided to dip out and travel through the multiverse to become a hero on any planet or any Earth that needed her, which I thought was so cool because you don't usually see that a lot. You see a lot of people, especially like the female characters, submitting, and they're like, oh, okay, fine. Like, I don't want to lose my family. These are the people that I love. They love me. They're just trying to do what's best for me, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, no, thanks for taking care of me, but I'm good. Bye. Okay, bye. And I was like, what? I love her. And on top of that, like, she's one of the first, like, characters that I've seen with like curly hair and the hoops and the dark skin. Like, look at her. She's a badass. Like, I love her. And she's actually going to be featured in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But she's going to be played by a Mexican actress. And I understand, you know, that if you don't have the talent coming to you that is from the culture that the character is, you can't hire that person. But a lot of the times it almost feels as though they get, you know, someone of Latina descent and they're just like, you know, it's close enough. Like, we don't got to look any further. It feels as if we're interchangeable to them, even though our cultures are very different from country to country. But that it doesn't feel like, you know, that's taken note of. And on top of that, the I don't know how they're gonna make her look, but she don't look like America. Just from her, you know, everyday look. She's straight hair, she's very light, you know, so we'll see what happens, but screaming whitewashing to me, and I don't like it, but we'll see what happens. And another thing about her that I just really, really loved again was just the fact that, like, she wears whatever she wants again too. Like, she doesn't care what anybody has to say. And, you know, this is the character for the girls that are told that they're too loud or that they're too much or that they take up too much space. You don't, she doesn't, you don't either. This is for you. You should go read her. The next character that we have is super familiar, at least it should be if you've watched anything, you know, comic related at any point in your life, is Bane. Nobody knows what his real name is, even if he has one. He was published by DC. He's actually from a made up Caribbean island, so he doesn't like have like, you know, a culture that you can like mesh to. You thought he was a white man, see? That is not, you know, I don't even take offense to that. Like, it's not something that's out of the ordinary. Like, and you'll see why. I'll show you why. He is from Santa Prisca. He's classified as Latino, but is biracial because his dad is British. So his first appearance was in January of 1993. He was raised in prison. And the reason why he was raised in prison was because his dad was supposed to be in prison, but he escaped. And the island ruled that Bane would finish his dad's sentence in his place because they could not find his dad anywhere. So instead of, you know, just letting the poor baby be, they threw him in prison with his mother. He grew up with nightmares of a demon bat because he was tortured in prison. That was the reason why he hated Batman so much, because every time he saw Batman, he thought of the demon bat that he grew up dreaming about. He actually crippled Batman in one of their fights, which is shown in the picture right up here. He broke that man's back, bent him like a pretzel. He was the only man to have ever broken the bat, and it was insane. When that comic art got released, people lost it, man. Like, this is what the thing that, like, comic readers, when you think of Bane, you think of that. That series is called Nightfall, if anybody wants to look into it. But this man, for growing up in prison and for having all the issues that he did, he was incredibly intelligent, which is never shown. Like, I had no idea how intelligent this man really is. And the only time that you saw a tiny speck of his intelligence was when he was played by a white man in The Dark Knight Rises. But this man, he uses his immense strength and his intelligence in his criminal pursuits. I mean, wish he was here, but you can't really blame him. He grew up in prison. His strength is enhanced by a drug called Venom. He's actually addicted to it, and this is the reason why you often see him as a lackey instead of a leader. Although he has the qualities to be a leader, people use his addiction as, a point to control him. So they're like, oh, I have the Venom, I'll give it to you, and you do this for me. And since he's addicted, he just does it. But he is able to speak multiple languages. He's able to speak English, Spanish, Portuguese, Persian, Urdu, and Latin. When he was in the prison growing up, whenever he found a book, he would read it. And this is just like how he learned all of his things. Like, he was very, into education as much as he could get. Another fun fact about him is he actually committed his first murder at 8 years old. Again, he grew up in prison. He carried around a teddy bear that he named Osito, and that was his best friend, but he put a knife in Osito to protect himself. So whenever anybody would come up and mess with him, he pulled out his little knife from Osito and, did his thing. What else can I say about this man? Like, honestly, like, a lot of the things that I found out about him, I was very surprised, because growing up, every time I saw him, it was kind of just like, oh, he's just some dude that they pipe up with some drug and he just goes and crazy, kind of like the Hulk. But he has so much more dimension to him. He actually is written with a very, very heavy Spanish accent, and often that gets lost completely when you see him, because he's usually played by a white actor. It's even lost in the cartoons, but when he was cast in The Dark Knight Rises, the creator had to come out and be like, no, he is actually Latino, like, he is not a white man, not fully. And that was like probably one of the first times that the general public realized that he wasn't a white man. He actually has like so much unrealized potential due to his life circumstances and his addiction. But he's also another character with highlights of mental issues like PTSD and anxiety because of his upbringing. He's also written to sometimes be an anti-hero. Batman ended up reconciling with him at some point, to a degree, not fully, but he's kind of like the best of the bad. So Batman will use him sometimes to put other people in prison and whatnot. And for those of you who are not familiar with how Bane looks in these photos, here are other photos of how you might have seen him. This obviously is Dark Knight Rises, and this is the Batman and Robin movie where he was Poison Ivy's lackey. This was the big dude, and this was the little guy when they showed him before he got all hyped up. Yeah, so this one is actually pretty popular because the Batman and Robin movie was like super popular for our generation at some point. Yes, it was Irvin. Yeah. So this one was pretty popular. Another thing that I also like to note is that like his mask is inspired by a Mexican luchador, and that was kind of supposed to be another hint of the fact that he was Latino. But again, it gets lost sometimes. Like, I don't know what the heck this is, but that happened. So the next person that we have is Dr. Cecilia Reyes. She is an X-Men. She was published by Marvel. She is also Puerto Rican, raised in the Bronx, and Afro-Latina. She was created by Scott Lobdell and Carlos Pacheco. Her first appearance was in June of 1997. You guys probably have no idea who this is, and that is okay, because I didn't know who it was either. But in the next slide, I'm going to show you who she was depicted as, and it might ring a bell. Her mutant powers actually activated super late in life. Her whole thing, her whole life was to be a doctor, because at age 6, she saw her father gunned down in a drive-by shooting. And she became a trauma surgeon because of this. Like, that's all she wanted in life. She, after like she became the surgeon and realized her goal, was when her powers activated. And Professor X sought her out, wanted her to come to the academy and help them and be an X-Men, and so she could learn about herself and stuff, and she refused. She asked Professor X to keep her mutant status a secret so she could continue being a trauma surgeon, because that's what was important to her. That's how she wanted to help her people. She preferred, again, her career in medicine over fighting battles with the X-Men. Sometimes she would, but she didn't even take on a mutant name. She was just Doc or Ceci or Cecilia Reyes. That's it. She did not want a mutant name or anything like that. She actually ended up in one of her arcs. She took an extremely addictive and illegal drug to temporarily boost her powers, but then she became addicted. I don't know what it is with them wanting to give all these characters of color addiction, but it's getting annoying, and I hope that they, let that go. It's not said, like, it's very unknown as to if she's still addicted or not, so I can't give you that little tidbit. She is, though, the only member of the X-Men that's a true doctor. She is the only one that went to med school and graduated and became a surgeon. Anybody else who is like called doc or anything like that, they are not a true doctor. She is the only one, which I thought was really, really cool. She was actually abducted by the Weapon X program, which is the program in which they experiment on mutants to either cure them or use them as weapons, but she was spared due to her medical skills. She was actually featured in the movie New Mutants. She was portrayed as a villain, but in actuality, she is a very good person. She has not a bad bone in her body. She's never considered being a villain in her times in the comics at all. She is a badass that can hold her own. Like, one of the quotes that I pulled from her is, "I've lived the past few years as a Puerto Rican woman in the middle of a bunch of white male doctors. I know how to handle myself around bigots." And she said that before going into like a battle with the X-Men, because I guess the X-Men were like, oh, sometimes these people can be blah, 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 this, that, and other. And she's like, I know what I gotta do. I know how to be like, she could really, really hold her own. And I thought that was so, so nice to see, because again, you don't see female characters a lot like being like powerful, badass mujeres, like you just don't see it. And I love seeing it. Like, there's so many of us, like, just give it to us, like, we don't gotta be saved. And like in the New Mutants movie, I hated that they made her a villain. I didn't even know it was her when I watched the movie, but when I started doing this for you guys, that's when it clicked, and I was like, what? And me and my husband, when we found it, we were I was upset. I was very upset. She was played by a tan Brazilian actress, and the creator of New Mutants, the comics, Bob McLeod, he accused the filmmakers outright of whitewashing when they cast her. And just so you guys can see who she was, this was her in the movie, with a side-by-side depiction of how she was supposed to be in the comics. Yeah, there's really not much that you can say when you see these photos. It's just kind of like a big wow. How nice. They didn't even attempt to get the hair right or the skin. Like, there's no excuse. None. Like, the fact that they wrote her as a villain, okay, fine, for the sake of plot. But the fact that they cast this actress, there's no excuse. Nothing. There's nothing anybody can say. But we're gonna move on to one last X-Men. His name is Armando Munoz. He is Darwin. That is his X-Men name. You guys have seen him, but you probably didn't know you saw him. we'll get there. He's Afro-Latino, he's biracial, Black and Latino. They did not give him a specific country for the Latino part. I don't know why. I don't know if it was like something that was supposed to be made up, or because they wanted to focus more on his personality traits and his mutant traits than like his parents, because his parents were kind of awful. He was created by Ed Brubaker and Trevor Hairston. I don't know how to say his name, so don't quote me on that part. But his first appearance was in December of 2005. His dad abandoned him when his mutation started to develop, and his mother also rejected him when his mutation started to develop as well. And yes, Tiana, he was. The rejection of the parents is normal for mutants, so that's not something that I would say happened just because he was a character of color. We've seen that with almost everything that almost every mutant, you know, honestly, once they spar their mutation, their parents are like, oh my god, like, you're a freak, you got to get out of my house. His father actually later in life tried to come back and apologize, but I'm going to get to that in a second. I want to tell you about his younger years first. He was actually constantly bullied due to his mutation, because by the age of 4, he was bald. And he had like these really weird kind of like long limbs. So everyone kind of just was like, ew, like, I don't want to be around this dude. Like, he's different. I'm going to bully him, you know? He became so dejected from constant rejection from his peers, from his teachers, from his parents, that he actually did attempt suicide, but his powers saved him. So he has like this mutation of adaptability. He actually jumped from a high building, but when he landed, he almost bounced because he was so light and airy. So his body will sense a danger and adapt to it. Like, there was a time when his bullies were forcing his head into the school toilet, and his limbs got heavy like concrete when he hit them. So like, you know, he's very adaptable, which is why like they call him Darwin. He's like the person of change. We're gonna fast forward to his dad, though. His dad tried to come back into his life, and he claimed regret, saying that he was, you know, really sorry for leaving him and this, that, and other, but he was actually trying to sell his son to be studied. He didn't get paid for selling his son. He got shot in the head, and he was rendered mentally disabled after that. I think he deserved it. And Darwin actually, you know, he ended up getting experimented on and stuff. He got saved, and then he went to his dad's bedside for reasons unknown to me. He went to his dad's bedside and talked to him for a bit, and he told him he would never be able to forgive him, and then left. And that was the end of their story. He was actually found by Moira McTaggart, not Professor X. Moira McTaggart has the mutation or power of reincarnation. So that's why I said during one of her lifetimes, because when she dies, she comes back to life. She always comes back to life as herself, but her timeline is always different. So in this timeline, I believe is when she actually was working with Professor X. They actually get married in one of her lives, and they start the academy together. She aided Darwin in accepting his powers. And he, you know, then started to become an X-Men. He actually has an intelligence level of a 4, but because of his adaptability, it can go up to a 7 when his mutation is activated. So he can, like, there was this instance where he was taking the SATs and he really wanted to succeed and really wanted to pass, and he was leveled off the charts because of his mutation activating. Does she know that when she comes back that she has died and come back? Yes. So the first time that she died, she didn't know it was gonna happen. She didn't even know she was a mutant. you know, because she was able to live her life as a normal person. So I would be annoyed. Yeah, so she lived her life, she got married, she had kids, all, you know, the whole thing. And then she died and she got born again, basically. And when it took a little bit for like her memories to like come back, but they did come back, and she was like, huh, okay. And then Professor X actually found her, and she refused at that time. She actually, that her second lifetime was considered a villain because she wanted to create a cure for the mutants. And she did it. She did make the cure, but it was all sabotaged. The people went into her lab, blew it up, a bunch of stuff. They killed her. They said, if you come back in your next life and you do this again, it's just gonna happen again. Yeah, you know, so then when she came back, she found Professor X into the academy. You know, it was a whole thing. She lived like 10 or 11 times. So it's a white man blinking meme. Yeah, it's a lot. But anyways, back to Darwin. He was in X-Men First Class. He was actually played by a Kenyan actor, and he was just portrayed as Black instead of Afro-Latino. He was just one of a handful of POC actors in that cast. When you go and you Google it and you look at the IMDb, like, it is just snowfall with flecks of color. Which is like, you know, kind of annoying because X-Men, when you think about it, and even when you look at the comics, they're one of the most diverse groups. So it would be easy to pull characters from certain timelines, especially the fact that Professor X is literally based off Martin Luther King, and Magneto is literally based off of Malcolm X. Fun fact, for those of you who didn't know, yeah, that's the thing. So for those of you who didn't know that, that's another reason why I really love the X-Men, because that's why they have like battles against each other. That's why they start as friends. That's why they end up, you know, coming apart, because they have two different visions of how they want the world to be united. I feel like I blew a lot of your minds just like that one. Fact, but yeah, that was a thing. Darwin was also killed off super easily in X-Men First Class. I think he was one of the first characters to die. And the thing about his death was that it didn't make any sense with his mutation. So they put like an orb of power in his mouth. For anybody else, okay, I get how you would implode from the inside out, but his mutation is adaptability. And no, you know, he can die. He does die in the comics, but from that, you know, it didn't correlate in my head. It still doesn't. I don't think they're ever going to explain it to us, because they were like, we did what we did, we said what we said, and that's it. You know, I mean, they messed up X-Men so much in the live action movies anyway, so I really don't feel like they want to go back and rehash all of that. They're just like, we know we made mistakes. It just is what it is. So watch it, don't watch it. It doesn't matter at this point. But for those of you who are wondering what he looked like, this was Darwin. You know, I know that First Class, like, they were just coming into their powers and whatnot. But like I said, by the age of 4, he was bald. So it was kind of like, you know, you could try a little harder to at least make him look like who he was. Like, we didn't have to do the white of the eyeballs and the weird green skin tone, but like, we could have at least been bald and not died, and not have been the only Afro-Latino in the cast that died very early. But such is what happens to a lot of characters of color, especially a lot of Latina characters. Another thing that tends to happen, this happened like kind of in reverse, since this guy has like the green skin tone or whatever, but a lot of things that tends to happen, especially with Latina characters, is they get lightened over the years. So they'll start off, you know, brown, caramel, beautiful. And then over time, as they get drawn or as they're shown in movies, they're so light. They just get lighter and lighter and lighter. They lose their curls, they lose their accent, they lose their language, they lose everything that made them from the start. And that's to make it easy for non-people of color to digest them. And I don't like that. So I really hope that that starts to change as well. I know with Miles being so popular, I feel like there's room, and hopefully with other characters of color being shown in different things, they'll leave room as well. Another thing that I'd also like to note is that although they don't play like characters of color, that there are actors and actresses like in the MCU and stuff that are of Latina descent. So like Gamora, she's played by an Afro-Latina. We have like a couple of other people like Valkyrie. She's also played by an Afro-Latina. So, fun facts, guys, fun facts. But that's the end of what I have for you. And if you have any questions for me, I know I went like super close to the time that we have today, but I had a lot to say. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys had fun. I know I gave you a lot. There's a lot to digest here, especially with the last 2 slides that I gave you. I'm so glad that you guys took some stuff away from it. But if you ever happen to have any questions afterwards, I'm always open. Always let me know. You can email me, DM me, whatever. I'm here. But I'm just looking at the chat, like, you guys, like, thank you so much for being so active. Like, you're really funny, especially for the X-Men tidbit. X-Men is another thing that we could talk about for days. There's so many characters that a lot of people don't know. Like, even when I was going through this, me and my husband, like, there were people that we were like, wow, like, we didn't even know this person existed. So I know the comic world is a lot. It's just like diving into different books and novels and stuff like that. But I just, there's always that wish, like, why can't they just be the front character? Like, why do I always have to get Batman and Superman? Like, I'm sick of them. I'm sick of them. Yes, we have recorded it. So if you guys want to go back and watch, and then you have questions then, again, please feel free. And if you have any questions now, I'm open. If you want to just drop it in the chat, if you want to actually ask, feel free. I need to unpack all this and take notes. That's fine. I love a little note taking, so I'm here. I mean, like, I had my whole notebook too, even when I was doing this, so I completely understand. I didn't want to miss anything for you guys because there really is a lot. I feel like my whole comic book life has been a lie. I feel like, the kicker here was Bane. Like, once I put Bane up, like, I feel like y'all were like, what? Like, I did not.
Why would they lie? Why would they lie like that? Like, why would y'all lie to us? That is not who that man is.
It is not. They lied to us. We were very impressionable young children, and they lied to us. And the thing is, like, I remember seeing him too, because I used to watch the Batman cartoon, and like seeing the mask, I was like, he's a luchador. Like, I think he's Mexican, like in my little 6-7-year-old brain. But then, I grew up, I'm Puerto Rican. So, to me, that made sense. To anybody else who didn't grow up around the culture like that, like it wouldn't make sense. You wouldn't put that together. And then when you watch the movie and you're like, oh, I've seen him in a cartoon before, and now I'm hearing him from a real life person. So this must be what he actually sounds like. You know, that's because that's what little kids do. But they lied. Lied. Our whole lives lied. Yeah, see, Brittany, like he was listening to it, he was like, yeah, that's true. They definitely could have tried harder. They could have tried harder. I mean, just to give an example of how easy it would have been to give him an accent or have the actor talk with an accent. For those of you who have ever watched Narcos, the actor who played the drug lord, I don't know why I'm forgetting his name today.
Pablo Escobar?
Yes, thank you. He's white.
What?
Yes, he's white. He auditioned for the role and he didn't know that it was a Spanish speaking role. He learned Spanish, studied Pablo Escobar, and portrayed him as best as he could. Would it have been easier to cast a Spanish speaking person? 100%. But they still told him this is what it has to be. If you can't do it, you can't do it. But he did it. And that's all the writers had to do back then. Like, hey, this is how he's written. This is how you have to sound. And if you can't do it, we got to get someone else. I'm tired of being led astray. Yeah, fun fact of the day. Well, fun fact number 10 of the day. Oh, he's Brazilian. Okay, my bad. He's Brazilian. So, okay, that's a little better than being white. But he still didn't speak Spanish. So, you know, hey. Thank you, babe. You know, you really saved me and saving them because everybody's about to die. But that's a little bit better. But again, you know, all the time, especially like, you know, it's a Spanish speaking role. So it's kind of like, okay, there's a whole, like there's channels and productions and things in all these Spanish speaking countries. So why did we not reach out to them? But like, hey, you have somebody that might be able to do this role and speak a little bit of English every now and again. But people don't like to work with people. So weird. It's so much easier. Does anybody have any other questions or anything else that you'd like to say that I ruined your life about? I'm sorry, by the way. I don't know if I can take anymore. I respect that. I respect that a lot. Do you guys have a favorite like that you want to like go and read now or that you want to go and learn about more now? I mean, I feel like I made it very apparent who my favorite was. It was America Chavez. I feel like I have to go get all the books that she's ever been in life. And Kyle Rayner, I like him a lot too. Says who keeps dying and coming back to life sends me. Okay, she's white, you know, just to throw that out there. She is a white character, so don't be surprised when you go and see it. Kyle seems pretty cool, right, Evelyn? I think he seems pretty dope. Like, I just love that he conquered the emotional spectrum, you know? I'm suspicious of everyone. Def gonna read about Miss America. I love her. I don't really agree with her name, you know? I hate that almost every, actually, yeah, like every Latina character so far has been a spin-off of another character who started off as white, or like a lackey. They haven't actually created an original character for the Latina community. That was another thing that I wanted to share with you guys. You know, Spider-Man 2099, he's off of Spider-Man. Miss America, there was a white lady before her. Green Lantern started off white. You know, everybody started off as something else other than what they are. The only person that started out as like a Latina character was White Tiger, but he doesn't even have his own series. he is just thrown into stories of other characters. He does not have a title to himself. Like, we don't have a title character just yet that has been 100% original and ours. Jessica Cruz and Cecilia Reyes really interest me. I support that. They really are cool. I really like the fact that Jessica Cruz, although I wish she didn't have so much to overcome, again, I love the fact that, you know, her mental health is a really big part of her story, and they show her succeeding. You know, although she has drawbacks, they do show her succeeding, which I think is really, really nice to see. And it is giving Afterthought girl, it is. And Cecilia Reyes, like, she's dope. She's for all those women that are out here trying to, like, you know, focus on our careers and just wanting to help people in the ways that we know we can, instead of overtaking. You know, she does what she can, she does what she's comfortable with, and she's okay. She's at peace with that. Jessica Cruz will be one of the main focuses on the HBO Max Green Lantern show coming out. I did not know that. Thank you for that fun fact. Yay, that's great. I didn't even know there was going to be a Green Lantern show. I feel like he told me that and I totally forgot. But that'll be fun to see. And I mean, it will be fun to see like these namesakes coming out in certain things, like Blue Beetle. I'm super excited to see him. I can't wait to see Spider-Man 2099. Again, I am excited to see Miss America. I'm slightly disappointed in the casting choice. But I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know if maybe she will get changed later, you know, who knows? Hoping for the best.
All right, y'all. Well, if that's it, we will go ahead and wrap this. Thank you everyone for coming. Okay, hold on. Lex has added something.
People are angry because Jon Stewart isn't the main focus, which is probably why people haven't really focused on it. Makes sense. Jon Stewart, again, how I mentioned before, he's the Black Green Lantern. They know him more than they know who Jessica Cruz is. If they just did a quick Google, because Google is free, they would probably be okay with it. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see, just like how we always have to wait and see. And I hope that she gets her flowers.
Okay. For real this time. Does anybody have anything to add before we wrap this? Y'all were so much fun today. Lots of in the chat, lots of jokes. Love that. Like Erin had asked earlier, y'all, this recording, we just need to caption it first for like accessibility purposes, but we will get that captioned and then I will email it to you directly, in addition to us posting it on OMS's YouTube. So if y'all want to share it with your folks, please feel free to share. Just give us about like 2 weeks or so. We have a few videos to upload, but yeah, another great session. Learned so much. Thanks, Chelsea. Yeah, really excited to be here with y'all. Thank you again. Fun. This is amazing per usual. A lot of minds were blown today, and now we have to go spread the good word.
Yes, and again, any more questions? I'm here. I'm available. Even if you just want to talk about a character, I'm here. Thank you.